As homeschoolers, we have so much pressure on us, whether that's from external sources or pressure that we put on ourselves. We can begin to feel really overwhelmed and burnt out. And a lot of that is due to a lack of priorities and boundaries in our home and our homeschool. So let's talk boundaries. Setting boundaries and priorities in our homeschool can help us to make sure that we keep the most important things first. And that can help us then to eliminate some of that stress and pressure that can lead to burnout and frustration. I am super excited that today's video is a collaboration with Jamie over at Simply Living It and Christy at One Blessed Mess. Jamie is a homeschool mom of 3 boys who are similar ages to my 3 boys. And so I immediately found that connection with her when I found her channel. And I continued watching her channel because I just find that she is so genuine and transparent in the things that she shares about both the joys and the struggles and frustrations with homeschooling. And I always leave feeling encouraged and inspired. And she provides so many helpful hints and tricks that have helped me in my own personal homeschool journey as well. Christy is a homeschool mom of 5 sweet kiddos that are all elementary age and younger. And she just exudes this joy of the Lord. Every time I watch her videos, she always has a smile on her face and helpful and encouraging words to share as she shares really fun day in the life videos and talks about curriculum that she's using and different things that she has learned in her homeschool journey. And I have really enjoyed her videos. Both priorities and boundaries in our homeschool are one of those things that are individual to each family. So I am very excited to see what Jamie and Christy both have to share and glean some insight from them as well. I will leave links to their videos in the description below for you to watch later. If you're visiting from one of their channels, welcome. My name's Erin. I'm a homeschooling mom of 4 kids. I have boys ages 13, 10, and 9, and a 5-year-old daughter. And we have been homeschooling from the very beginning. And my channel here has been all about sharing with you things that I have learned along my process of homeschooling in hopes that will help you to create a more peaceful and relaxed homeschool experience. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, I encourage you to subscribe and join me as we walk along this homeschool journey together. Full disclosure here, this video for some reason has been so hard for me to wrap my brain around the direction that I wanted to take this, because this is an area that I feel like I still struggle with. I feel like I know all the things that I should be doing, but carrying them out can sometimes be another story. Know that while I share this, I am pointing that finger right back at myself. So I'm going to share 3 steps today of things that we can put into place to help us to create a more peaceful homeschool and avoid that burnout and the stress that comes along with all the pressure that we put on ourselves. The first thing that is the absolute most important is to know your why for homeschooling. If you haven't already clearly identified your why for homeschooling, then it can be a lot easier to get really overwhelmed and want to give up when times get hard. And trust me, as I've homeschooled for 8 years, there will be hard times and there will be times when you want to give up. We have these core values and reasons why we have chosen to homeschool established, and that will really help us to push through when times are hard and endure the struggles that we face, knowing that the outcome is going to be worth the effort that we put in today. So what are the main reasons you chose to homeschool? Make a list of those things and drop them in the comments below. I'm curious what drew you to homeschooling. After you have your list, congratulations, you just identified your priorities in your homeschool. These are the things that will help you to decide what curriculum you choose, what activities you participate in, what values you place on your homeschool, and things that you want to work on within the hearts of your children. So when I am choosing a curriculum or different activities that we're going to participate in, I run it through my list of priorities and see if it matches up with one of those things that is important to our family. And if it doesn't, then that makes it a whole lot easier for me to say no or not right now. That really helps me to be able to make sure that all of my energy is focused on my main goals for our home and for our homeschool. If you are struggling to come up with a list of priorities or motivations for your homeschool, you can check out this video here that is all about the top reasons that many people choose to homeschool and see if you can find some help in there. Okay, so after you identified your why, to homeschool, the second thing that you want to do is set boundaries that support your why. If we don't have proper priorities in place, then it is so easy to get overwhelmed by all the things because we want to do everything. We don't want our kids to miss out, and so we end up overcommitting. And then the problem with that is that we can't do any of those things really well because we are spread so thin, and we end up putting too much time and effort into things that aren't as important to us. It's important to keep in mind that boundaries are not there to limit us or to keep us away from things. Boundaries are there to help protect the things that we find the most important and the most valuable to us. Now, these things are going to be different for everybody. Everyone has different priorities and goals, and so then we're going to also have different boundaries that go along with them. But for example, one of our priorities as a family is to develop strong family relationships. Academics are important, of course, but family relationships that are going to last a lifetime, I feel like, are equally important. Having a close relationship with our kids helps us to create an atmosphere of safety for our kids, where they feel like they can come to us without fear of judgment or humiliation if they have a question or they're struggling with something. We really want to have that open communication with them where they feel safe to come talk to us about anything so that we can help teach them and guide them through those situations that they may be facing or decisions that they have to choose between. They know that we are their biggest cheerleaders and their strongest support system. We're always going to be there for them, and that really helps to create that atmosphere of safety and a strong bond within our home. So that's our priority, strong family relationships, right? So then some of the boundaries that we have put into place is 1, marriage first, kids second. It is so important for our kids to know that our marriage is secure, and that gives them, again, a sense of safety in knowing that we are a strong family unit and we're always going to be together. And so in order to be able to accomplish that, we need to have time together as a couple that is away from the kids so that we can work on our relationship as well. And so some of the boundaries that we've kind of put into place with that is that they have a clear wake up time. They are not allowed up until 7:30, so we can have some quiet time together in the morning. And then as well, bedtime is a firm time in our home because at the end of the day, we really need some time to decompress and spend a little bit of time together, again, to reconnect over the day and just have that time together as a couple. So those are some of the non-negotiables for us. On the homeschool side of this category, I really have tried to place an emphasis on relationships over textbooks. And what that means is that if one of my kids is really stressed out, and I can tell visibly from their mannerisms that they're really struggling and they're having a hard time with something, then we are going to pause the lesson and come back to it another time when they're in a cooler state of mind and we can kind of get back into a place where they can learn and grow. I am never gonna press through and force them to do something when they're in that distraught state, because I know that that is going to be a place where, number one, they're not going to continue learning, and number two, they're going to learn to resent me because I'm forcing them to do something when they are not ready for it. And so that is something that has been a boundary in our home for a long time and will continue to be so. The other boundary in this area is that we try not to overcommit to extracurricular activities, because if we have too many things outside of the home, then that means that we aren't going to have time together to relax and to spend time together building relationships. Okay, so the first thing was to know your why. Second thing is to establish boundaries that support your why. And the third thing is to come up with a strategy for following through. Story time. Today, as I was getting ready for the day, my kids burst into the bathroom, pulling me into an argument about who gets to have the dog sleep with them tonight. Please. They started yelling and names were called, and so of course I had to interject and talk about how we don't talk to each other that way and we don't call names in our home, and try to help diffuse the situation. I start to lose my cool then, and I get frustrated that my children are sinners. I mean, how dare they? Of course they are. We all are, and we all struggle with things, and we have to stop expecting our children to be perfect and to act like adults when they are children. They are still learning and growing, and we have to walk them through this process. And in that moment, it struck me that even if I have a boundary in place, like we don't call names in our home, if I don't have a plan in place for how I'm going to deal with that situation when it does come up, because it will, and our kids don't know their expectations and what the consequences are going to be if they break the rules, then that boundary is useless. So I am learning to set clearer expectations for our kids, because we can't expect our kids to measure up to this lofty goal if we haven't first told them what that is and how they are expected to behave. And secondly, I'm working on establishing better plans for follow through when that expectation is not met. Our kids need to know that poor choices have consequences, and those consequences are not always going to be pleasant. If we can have those consequences lined up in place before the offense occurs, then it will help us to keep our cool and keep a level head and be able to face that situation head on, rather than feel like we are in reactionary mode in the heat of the moment. I have been reading the book Boundaries with Kids by Drs. Henry Cloud and John Townsend, and it has been eye-opening. It has been so helpful in reaffirming a lot of these things in my mind and really helping me think about things in a way that I hadn't before. It has helped me really realize that I have not been the best at establishing firm boundaries in our house. While this particular example relates to behavior issues, we can certainly apply this to things within our homeschool as well. For example, if I have trouble overcommitting to things, then I really need to have a plan in place to help me establish firm boundaries to say no when someone asks me to volunteer somewhere, or to take on a new role at church, or to teach a class, or become involved in whatever it may be. I know that I have limited time and energy to do things, and I have to become better at saying no and learning how to say things like, I'd really like to help out, but I don't have time to do that right now. Or, thanks so much for asking, but I can't commit to something like that right now. I really believe that having some of these follow-up plans in place to safeguard our priorities will really help relieve some of that stress when things come up in the moment where we need to address a certain situation. Okay, so number 1 was to know your why. Number 2 was to create boundaries that support your why. And number 3 was to develop a strategy for follow through. What would you add? If you have any tips or suggestions, please drop that in the comments below. I'd love to get some more ideas from you. If you feel frustrated and overwhelmed in your homeschool right now, I encourage you to check out this video right here about 3 mindset changes that I made that really transformed our homeschool. And don't forget to check out Jamie and Christie's videos as well. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that thumbs up button below. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.